My name is Kwan Xiao. In this video, I will be helping Clovis College Information System students complete their graphics design for the web project. So let's go ahead and get started on our first project. I'll guide you step by step through GIMP as we work on project 1. Please have the directions either printed out or open on your computer so that you can follow along as I go through these steps. Personally, I prefer to have the steps open and positioned on the left side of the screen, and then with GIMP open on the right. So if it's full screen like this, you can just, in Windows, you can just click it and then drag it to the left, and you want to arrange it to the left. I'll go ahead and open up GIMP. It could be an icon on your desktop. For me, it's on my start menu. Right. So let's go ahead and create a new project file. So let's go through this step by step. So go to File, select New, and then set the dimension so it's 3000 by 3000. And I like to kind of cross these out as I go through this. So you notice if I highlight it, there's this strike through option. And then in order to see whether the resolution is set to 300, we got to expand the advanced options. And yes, it's set to 300. Okay. And then we want to go to the fill width. In order to see that, there's this horizontal, or there's this scroll bar here that we can scroll down. Right now, the fill width is set to background color. We want to set it to foreground. And then we want to make sure that the foreground color is a light gray, which is specifically D5, D5, D5. And it's already set to that, but if it's not, you just have to type it in. And if and that is the HTML notation value for light gray. Okay, okay, and that's set. Let me go ahead and arrange it to the right. And then I'm gonna set my zoom so I can see the entire image. So I did not resize the image, but I just zoomed out in a way. Okay, let me go ahead and strike through the text here. So for the next step, we need to create a new transparent layer and name it circle 1. So you do that. Let me go ahead and zoom in. By clicking on this icon here where it says create a new layer, right? Let me zoom out, and then I'm going to click this button here. It says create a new layer. Right now it's called lines. We want to actually call it circle 1. And if the fill width is set to, let's say, background color, you would need to set it to transparency. And it will remember this setting the next new layers you make. So yeah, we'll be creating transparency layers over and over again for this particular project. And you can tell it's just transparent when you can see this checkered flag pattern here, or checkered pattern, right? And now we want to draw a circle. Now not the neat thing, but the interesting thing about GIMP is they don't have a shape tool. They do have a selection tool. And then the shapes are created through the selection tool and by filling it in the selection. So this is how GIMP works. So I already have ellipse selected. It usually defaults so that it's move and it's rectangle. Okay. To change it, let me go ahead and zoom in really quick so you can see what I'm talking about. If you hover over those icons with the bottom right hand triangle, it just says that there's more options for the icons. So if you hover over the rectangle tool, also in the group is the ellipse select tool. Okay. Um, for this project and other projects, I like to emphasize and use shortcut keys, which just makes changing and switching between tools much faster. So if you didn't notice, the ellipse tool is E, so I'm just going to hit E on the keyboard. There we go. It went to ellipse. And then strike those out. And then let's just go ahead and draw an ellipse of any size. It's almost like an oval. Let me go ahead and change the size so it's 1500 by 1500. If you didn't notice, I went from one box to another by hitting tab on the keyboard, and now it's a perfect square. Okay, let's go ahead and check those off. And we want to verify that the background color is pure white. Just click on that. When it's 6Fs, that's pure white. We want to go ahead and fill it with the background color. You can either do that through Edit, and select it and selecting fill with background color, or using the keyboard control period. Okay. Right. Now we want to deselect the circle and then crop to layer. The reason why we do that is it allows us to specifically focus on manipulating this shape for alignment purposes. So, and this is something you see repeatedly done in this project. And then these two steps are actually combined into one. And this is going to be simply deselect the shape and crop to layer. Okay. But since this is your first time doing it, I want to be really specific. So in order to deselect the circle, you want to go to select menu, choose none, or you can just use Control Shift A on the keyboard. So it's three keys. Control Shift A. Okay. You notice the selection is gone. However, we do want to crop to layer, so go to layers, crop layers to content. And you notice there's this yellow dash line around it. Okay. Now we can align it properly. Okay. Select the alignment tool. The shortcut key for that is Q. Since I didn't mention it here, let me go ahead and show you what that looks like. I'm going to zoom in over this move tool, right click on it, and then select the line and distribute key tool, sorry. Or you can hit Q. I should have put that there. I'll update the direction to show the shortcut key function for that. All right, now we can align it so that it's center and middle. So this is middle and this is centered. Okay. So another word is vertically align it vertically and horizontally. Okay. That's done. So now we want to create additional circles. So we're going to create 4 more circles. And if you're curious what the logo you're designing, let me see if I can bring that up really quick. Yeah, let me go and open this up. This is what we're working towards. Okay. Um, so for you guys, you won't be using my name, my last name. You'll be using either your first, last, or brand here. Okay. So I don't want to see Ciel in your project. Um, I know that well, that's one of the ways I can tell you didn't follow the directions. Anyways, so that's what we're working towards. So let's create a new layer and let's go ahead and delete the one and just type in 2. And you notice it's already set to transparency, so that's easy. And once again, so this is 3 steps now in here. You want to create a 14 by 1400 circle, fill it with black, and then align it to the center horizontally and vertically. And then we want to deselect the shape and crop to layer. So let's just focus on this one first. So hit E for the ellipse tool, just draw a circle, then type in 1400 by 1400. Okay. And then to easily get the black, you just hit this small black white circle here. It's to set it to default colors. And then we want to set the foreground color now. So the way to do that with your keyboard is Control comma. Okay. Now let's go ahead and okay. So in order for us to align it, we have to deselect the shape and crop to layer first. So I need to revise this direction so it shows that. All right, so let's go ahead and deselect the shape and then go to layers, crop layers to content. Then we can align it so it's in the center of our project here. Let's go ahead and create another layer, call this 3. You can click on the ellipse tool, or should it click E? It'd be 1200 by 1200. Okay. Fill it with white, and once again, it's out of order, so it's important that you deselect the shape and crop the layer first before aligning it to center. So I'm gonna, oh, I need to fill it with white. So this time is fill it with background color, which is Control period. Control Shift A to deselect. Go to layer, crop layers to content. Now I can hit Q and then align it to the middle. Take care of those steps. All right. Let's go ahead and now create our last circle. Call it 4. Hit E. And it's going to be 1175 by 1175. And this time we're going to fill it with a dark gray color. So let's go ahead and click our black and type in 37, 37, 37. Don't worry about this hashtag there. We don't need that in there. Hit OK. And then since it's a foreground colors, be control comma. Then deselect this shape. Go to layers, crop layers to content. And then we can go to the line tool, which is Q, and center it in our project here. Now we can create the pennant. All right, so let's go ahead and do that by creating our layer first. And then we're going to call that layer rectangle. Okay. And then we need the rectangle tool. Makes sense, right? So which is R. And let's just draw any long rectangle. And then we'll type in the specific value here, which is 2400 by 500. Okay. We want to fill it with black and then align it to center. Once again, right? I have this out of order. So let me go ahead and change it to black first, and then Control comma to fill it with background. Control Shift A to deselect the shape. Go to layers, crop layers to content. Now I can use the alignment tool, which is Q, and then center it into our image here. Oh, let's see here. I don't think I mentioned it here. Oh, okay. I've missed this step here when it says select a background layer. I should have done that because right now you notice a rectangle's above a circle. We don't want that. If I did it right, when I select background and click a new layer, see, it would have created the rectangle layer there. Um, Let me go ahead and delete that. I can fix this easily by dragging this down. So now it's beneath my circle. Okay. So yeah, just make sure to read my direction thoroughly. Yeah, I didn't read it thoroughly myself and I've written it. All right. Strike those out. Now we want to create a new layer, but we don't want to worry about renaming that. And then because we'll be deleting it later because we're just using that layer to cut out a shape. Okay. So let's just click that and just hit OK. And you notice is that temporary layer is called rectangle number 1. Just stick with it. But we want to draw a 500 by 500 square. Once again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Hit R for the rectangle tool. Just draw any shaped rectangle and then change the size to 500 by 500. Once again, you hit tab to go between those boxes. Um, let's go ahead and fill it with white. So let me go ahead and cross this out here. And then once again, to do that, because since the white is the background colors, control period. We want to set the opacity to 50% because that allows us to kind of see through the shape as we layer it over the rectangle. So right now, the opacity, if you didn't notice, let me zoom in here, it's on this upper right-hand corner of your GIMP program. If you click somewhere towards the middle, and then you can just hit the minus sign to get the 50%. Okay, let me go and zoom back out. And then now we want to crop the layer to content. Once again, you have to do Control Shift A to, I guess you don't need to do it here. Or you're actually going to have to go to Select. None. I don't know why the shortcut key didn't work for me there. Because I think I was switching between windows too often. And then now you can go to layers and crop layers to content. and you want that yellow dash line to be visible, because then we can rotate it properly. So to access the rotate tool, just hit Shift R. Okay, it's glitching for me, so I'm gonna have to click on this rotate tool here, and then hit the minus symbol, and then type in 45 and hit rotate, and then there it is. It rotate to 45. Now I move it, so I hit M, and there it is. It works for me there. And then I'm gonna move this diamond so it's overlapping the rectangle. And you notice right now it's cutting too much of the rectangle. So I'm gonna zoom in really quick, and then to do that, you hit Control and a mouse wheel up so I can zoom in. And I'm gonna use this horizontal bar to kind of move the view to the left. Okay. And I'm gonna move so the corner, the left corner's on the edge. And let's see here. So I'll take care of that step. And then I'm gonna use the scale tool to kind of like squeeze uh, the rotated square into a flatter diamond shape, which is approximately 367 by 708. I'm going to do it exact. You can do it at approximate if you want. Um, let's see here. So to scale it, hopefully it works, is Shift S. So let me see here. Shift S. All right, it works now. All right. So the scale tool is here. And I can just eyeball it by doing this. Or I can just type in the exact value, which I do have down here. So I'm just going to type in 367, hit scale. All right. And then I want to kind of move this so that the diamond is kind of like, let me zoom in now, cutting the corners of the rectangle. And one of the ways that can help me do that is if I go to the alignment tool and then align it horizontally, that helps me move it so that my diamond cuts the corner of the rectangle. Okay, so it so happened to do it perfectly. You might have to move it again slightly to have that happen, but it worked out great for that. So, okay. Now, let me go ahead and zoom out a little bit more. Now we want to right click on a diamond layer, which is rectangle number 1, and then select from the context menu, alpha to selection, which is towards the bottom. Okay. And then once that's done, you can tell there's this moving dash line there. We can delete that layer. So to do that, let me go ahead and zoom in really quick. It's the square X button here. Okay. So click on that, but you notice the diamond is still there. And then we can cut it by let's see here. Delete the diamond layer. Yeah, we did that. Um, let's see. So in a rectangle layer, we can go up to, which is this layer that we're in. We can go to edit and then select clear, or we can just hit delete on a keyboard to cut it. Okay, so I'm going to do that. And yep, that did it. Now let's go ahead and zoom out. Control Shift J. The reason why I want to do that is, right, we're going to have to cut the other side, but here's a neat trick. We can just flip the rectangle um, without having to move the diamond. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. So we want to do this by going to Layer, Transform, and then flip horizontally. And you notice the right side's been flipped to the left, and now we can just hit delete on the keyboard. And there you go, we have a symmetrically cut diamond shape on both sides now. Okay. And then once again, we want to deselect the shape, Control Shift A. So that completes those 3 steps. All right. So now we want to apply cutout to the circle. So we want to select circle 1, And then we want to change the blend mode. So let me go and zoom that in really quick. Right now the blend mode is on normal. You want to click on that and then select erase. Zoom out, and you notice it cut out um, a circle there, so it's a transparent round border there, and that's what we want. Go ahead and check those off. Let's go ahead and create a new layer now. We're going to create the stars now. So let's go ahead and create a new layer. Call it star right. Okay. And then we want to select the brush tool, specifically the paintbrush tool. So right now the tool is on my paintbrush, but we want to use paintbrush. So right click on it and select paintbrush, or you could have just hit P on the keyboard. And it's usually default, I believe, to hardness 0.25. So if it's that blurry circle, let me go ahead and zoom in. You want to go ahead and click on that blurry circle and select the star here. That's what we want. Okay, let me zoom out. Okay, take care of that step. We want to set the foreground color to white. So you can easily do that by flipping it. So now the foreground color is white. And then change the brush size so it's 200. Right now, the size is 55. Click on 55 and type in 200. Hit tab, tab. Yep. Now we want to adjust the brush angle so it's about 53 degrees, because if I hover over this the pennant here, you notice that the corners are not straight up. The top of the star is not straight up. I want to change the angle so the star is straight up. So let's go to angle, which is 17.5. Change it to 53. Tab. And now it's straight up. Um, you kind of have to eyeball it where the center is. So let me go and zoom in really quick, which is Control mouse wheel up. Okay. Click here. Okay. But I can horizontally align that. So to do that, let's go ahead and check off our steps that we've completed. So we want to crop the layer. We'll go to layer. You notice there's no selection, right? So we don't need to deselect the shape. So crop layers to content, and now we have that over there. And then hit Q, and then we want to align horizontally. So what happens? It is already horizontal. Hey, I did a good job. Okay. Let's just say it isn't. Like, let me move it a little bit out of middle like that, right? If I go to Q, and then there you go. See, it's horizontally um, aligned now. All right. We want to duplicate the layer, so it helps to see the other side. So I'm gonna hold the Control key and zoom out really quick, or just do Control Shift J. Oops. Oh, I guess I was still active on the Adobe PDF reader. There we go. Um, all right, so let's go ahead and duplicate the layer. So to do that, let me go ahead and zoom in really quick. It's this two overlapping rectangle icon. Okay, back out. Now, right now it's called star right copy. I didn't mention it here. Oh, I did. I want to rename it to star left. There we go. Then let's go ahead and check that off. Oh, so before we can flip it, which I thought I was going to jump to, I need to resize the layer right now so that it's to the image side, so that when I flip it, it's able to flip properly. Okay. So now when I go to layer, transform, flip horizontally, see that is perfectly aligned on the other side. Now, it's important that you do not use image transform flip horizontally, because that's the wrong flip. Okay. it will just flip the entire image and you still have only one star. All right, so that takes care of that step. Now we can move on to part 3 where we can add text and finalize the project. So at this point, it's important that we save our project. So go to File, Save. And you want to go to save the project using your first name, last initial, and the project name, which is project one. So for example, I'm going to navigate to where I'd like to save this file. So for the most part, you guys can do, documents or desktop. But for me, I have a very specific place where I save my file. I like to save it in Google Drive. Here we are. Yep, this is where I'm going to save it. For you guys, it can be much simpler in your desktop or documents folder. All right, now let's go ahead and type in your first name. Don't worry about capitalizing the first letter, dash S, the initial of your last name, and then project one. Okay. Don't worry about the word custom there, and then just hit save. Okay. And then you can, if you look at the bottom here, let me go ahead and zoom in here. It says image save to wherever you saved it at. Okay. It changed because I selected something else. Let me go ahead and check that off. Now you guys want to go ahead and download and install two fonts, Chunk 5 from fontsquirrel.com and Oswald font for fonts.google.com. So I conveniently linked it for you so you can just click on it. You might have to click allow as on the Adobe if it's asking you to, are you sure you want to visit websites through this PDF file? And you want to click allow. So it takes you directly to this Chunk 5 font. And then you want to go ahead and just download the font. Okay, I've already downloaded it, so I'm not going to do it again. So just be aware for the licensing is really asking you to not modify it and claim it as your own font. And then if you're using it commercially, you should definitely cite, give authorship. Okay, acknowledge the contributions. Okay, and I think that's it when it comes to permissions and conditions. They're not asking for a cut, which is cool. Some fonts does ask for a certain percentage. So yeah, it's good. It's good to avoid those fonts. Anyways, so this is from chunk 5. Oops, let me go back to our directions here. And then we'll be using a font from Google. So when you click on that, so this is we'll be using Oswald font. And then for them, instead of download, you want to hit on get font, and then you can access the download button. Okay. Locate those files those fonts that you downloaded. So for me, it's going to be in my fonts folder. It's going to be zipped. So I don't know if you notice it has a zip icon. I guess I can change the icon so it's bigger. There you go. So you can see that zipped icon there. You could just double click and then install it that way, but I tend to unzip them, right? On Windows, it's called extract, and then I tend to install it that way. I've already installed it, so I don't need to do it again. But for you guys, this is your first time, you would need to install it. You want to do Chunk 5 regular font, where it's solid like that, and install that. You don't want the print font. Okay. Once you've installed those fonts, in order for the fonts to appear in GIMP, you have to close GIMP and restart it because that's the only way for GIMP to load any new fonts that you just installed. So let me once again make sure you saved it. But the shortcut key for that is Control S. And you notice the prompt at the bottom says image saved. Close it, reopen GIMP. Okay. And then you want to go to File and go to Open Recent. And you should be the topmost file, the XCF file. Okay, there it is. And then Control Shift J to fit the image in window. Bring up the directions. So we got that all good, ready to go. Now we can use the text tool to add the following text elements. So to access the text tool, you can just hit T on your keyboard or just click the A. And then just click anywhere in the circle. Right now, the font size is 62. We want to change that to 90. You notice this monospace. We want to type in Oswald. And we want to go with bold. Now we can just type in, oops, sorry, hit Tab, I believe. Okay. Maybe just click on this gray area here. There we go. You notice none of these fields are selected now and hit Tab. Now I can just hit the word my. Oh, before I do that, um, there's first let's just follow the directions I set. Oswald, bold, set it to 90, and then we want to set the color to a darker gray. So AF, 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 hit OK. Then I can type the word my, right? Oh, okay. So I made a mistake here. You notice my layer right now is not at the top for the word text. So let me drag this up. Now you can see it. Okay. Yeah. So I guess I should have added this additional direction here where you click on the topmost circle before you insert your text. So I'll try to remember to add that direction in there. Okay, now you can see the word my. I'm all like, where did it go? All right. So let me make sure the word my is my topmost layer selected. Now I can, you notice it defaults to text tool. Now I can just click again on the space here. Now I want to set it so it's chunk 5. So it's chunk 5 and then select regular. It's going to be a large font. So let's start with 400. Let's see here. Can I drag this? All right. I'm trying to see where I can do the color change. So it's not going to let me do it. So um, I can change that later. Let me go ahead and just type in my last name. Notice it's pretty big. And then I can select my last name. And then here now I can select it. So it's already set to white, so I'm good. So I shouldn't stress too much. Hit M, kind of move it into the circle here. And then hit T again. And then that way you can, uh, yeah. So I guess it's good to kind of click to the left side of the circle so you can see the color selection here, right? And we want to go back to Oswald bold. This time we want to set it to 80. And then the color, we want to set it so it's 83, 83, 83. And then go ahead and type in the word design. This is a darker gray than that one, than the word my. And then hit M. Oops, sorry. Um, you can't use the shortcut key because, right, it's going to think you're trying to type words, the letter word, the letter M. So you're going to have to click on that M there, kind of zoom in a little bit, and then make sure your selection is over the letter and drag it underneath your last letter. Okay. Let me double check something here. Let me hit T. Oops. Selecting that. So I'm going to hide the word CL since it's so big. Yeah, I just want to make sure my pixel size is 90. Yeah, I've been kind of absent-minded lately. All right, let me go ahead and bring that S back in. All right. So that takes care of the text part of it, this project. Now we want to go ahead and arrange text elements in the circle so that the word my, so let's go and just click on the move tool here. It's in front of your letter. So you want to capitalize the first letter so that you have this raised space between the next letter. And I already moved the design already underneath my last letter, so I don't need to move that again. All right, so we want to go ahead and kind of organize this text layer into a layer group. So let me go ahead and zoom in really quick. And you do that by clicking on this folder with a plus icon. Okay, I'm going to zoom out. And you notice there's the word layer group there. Okay, so I can expand this a little bit more. And then just drop those text in by just click and drag the layer on top of the word layer group. And you notice they're inside this layer group now when you have these um, lines. So I can collapse that group, and you notice it's all organized now. So that take care of those two steps. All right, so the next thing we want to do is create a new layer and call it lines. Okay, so let me go ahead and expand this again. And then create a new layer and call it lines. And what GIMP does is put that new layer inside this layer group. However, we don't want that in the group yet. We want to drag it out. And the reason why is because we want to focus on editing just the lines and not the other elements in the group. Okay, take care of that step. Let's go ahead and zoom in. Okay, or you can use the zoom tool. So let me show you what the zoom tool looks like. Control Shift J. The zoom tool is this magnifying glass, and you can just draw a box at the bottom area. Yep, that does the same thing. We want to focus on drawing a line underneath your name, and it's in front and doesn't cross over the word design. All right, so let's use a rectangle tool to draw a thin line below the name or brand. Okay, so let's go and hit R, draw a rectangle. Um, for me, it's the length for my name is about 731. It's going to be different based of what name you chose, but the height should be the same. Should be 13 pixels. It should be pretty thin like that. Okay. All right, and then now we want to go and deselect the shape. Oops. Oh shoot. Before, my bad. I, I forgot that some steps have multiple directions. I need to fill it with brown first. So let me go ahead and switch the black to the foreground color, and then the brown is 54, 39, 39. Okay. Then would be Control comma. Now I can deselect the shape. I'm all like, yeah, I don't have that line yet. Now we want to crop layers to content. Okay. We want to duplicate the line because we want to create hash marks, thin hash marks that will intersect this horizontal line. So let's go ahead and duplicate that by clicking on this um, duplicate layer option. Okay. And then hit M to move that duplicate layer down so we can see the second line. Okay. And then let me go back to my first layer here. I'm going to kind of move it a little bit. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit and move it so that, yeah, here you go. So it's a little bit more centered and not as close to the word D. And I'll move this again before we finish, but let's go ahead and focus on that duplicate line and resize it so it's about 66 by 7. So to do that, you want to use the scale tool, which is Shift S. Right now it's 731. We want to change it to 66, and it's 7. Hit scale. So it's a tiny little line. Let's zoom in, hit M for move to access the move tool, move it towards the middle, zoom out a little bit, in a little bit more. All right. Before we make 2 more copies, let's rotate that. So let me bring this down. I want to bring it down so that when I rotate it, it doesn't intersect this horizontal line. So to access the rotation tool is Shift R, and then you notice the rotate um, option menu appears, and just hit minus to get the negative symbol, and then 67.75 is one we want to rotate it by that value. So you notice the diagonal line now, and we don't need to deselect the shape because right, it doesn't really have a shape selection outline. So we want to duplicate this line twice. So let's go ahead and click that one time. Let's go ahead and move that out. Well, let's just go ahead and duplicate it again. So you notice there's 2 more copies. Let's hit M. So this is moving the top layer. So I'm going to move it to the further side. And then I'm going to go back to the, I'm going to select this middle layer, which is line copy number 1, and move it to the middle. Okay. Um, to align these properly at the top, so I'm going to zoom in really far. You want to bring in a guide. So let me go and show you what that looks like. So I'm going to zoom in. You want to move your mouse pointer so it's on this ruler, and then click and drag down. So I'm going to zoom out really quick. So when you're on this ruler, click and drag down, and you notice there's this thin line here, and then drag it as close to the diagonal lines, then let go. And you notice now there's a blue dash line. So that is just a guide. It doesn't appear in your final project or appear in the export of your file. So let's click on lines copy and then bring it up. And you notice it snaps to it. So that's cool. Okay. And then go to the middle line, which is line copy number 1. Bring it up so it snaps to it. And kind of move it so that the corner of this selection box is above the top corner here. Okay. Let me go ahead and select the third line. Move it to the top. It snaps and then move it. There you go. Yep, that looks good. That takes care of that step. And then we want to merge these lines down to a single group here. So to do that, let me go ahead and zoom in to this tool. It's right here. It's this 3 stack layers with a down arrow, which means merge down. So since it's merging down, right, you want to select the topmost layer, merge it down. You notice the crop to layers expanded, and then click it one more time. And now it's around all 3 diagonal lines. Okay. And then move it so that it intersects the horizontal line around the middle. So let's go ahead and zoom out. And then I'm going to get rid of this, make sure it's a move tool. This guide line here, by just hover over it until it's red, click and drag it to the left pane, and that will remove it. That way you can just kind of focus on this, aligning it to this horizontal brown line. Once again, um, you notice this is not the right area to click and drag. It's when you don't see the finger. Okay, now it's a good area to click and drag. Okay, let me zoom out a little bit to see. That looks good. Let me click on lines, layer group. Yeah, I'll go with that. All right, so now I'm going to merge it down one more time. Now it's the hash mark has been merged. Let's see here. Oh, see. Yeah, I should have brought the line down a little bit lower, huh? Yeah, let me undo that. So you notice I'm just hitting Control Z. I'm going to move this line down a little bit more. Yeah, it's when you're eyeballing it, right? It's not exact science. It's just you do it by feel. Okay, that looks better. Yeah, definitely a lot better. Now I can just go and merge it down. And you notice it's just called lines now. Okay, so we're good. Right now we can go ahead and drag the combined line layer to the text layer group. Okay, so let's go ahead and drag it in here. Okay, I kind of like to arrange it so it's stacked, like how my logo looks. It doesn't really matter, but it's aesthetically, I think I like that organization. All right, there we go. That takes care of those two steps. Now we can finalize and export the logo. The reason why we want to export the logo is because we want to change the background color um, so that, and then do some other effects. And the best way to do that first is kind of delete our boring light gray background. All right, let me go to zoom out really quick. Um, so to do that, let's just go ahead and take care of that step. Oh, already remove. If you haven't done so, this is a good time to do it. Oh, let's see here. So we want to make sure the group layer is in the middle. This group layer here. Yeah, the text. Um, so let's hit Q on the keyboard, hit the vertically align, and there you go. Now that's in the middle. Now that looks good. We can add a little bit more finesse to it, and we'll kind of do that by rotating it slightly. It's interesting how a slight rotation make it look cooler. So let's go ahead and access the rotate tool, which is Shift R, and then hit minus to get the negative sign in there, and let's type in 8.88 and hit rotate. And look at that. It seems to add motion. Yeah, without actually moving. Okay, now we can go to delete our bland background color. Some of you guys might like it, but for me, it's a little too bland. Select it, delete it. The way to do that is you can hit the delete icon here or select delete layers. That does the same thing. It looks weird because, right, you're looking at the bottommost layer now, which is rectangle. See the whole thing, you want to go to the top, and there it is. That's that's what you have. That's the project you have. Oh, sorry. Um, I'm only did this part. And let's go to save the project once more. So hit Control Save. So that's saved, but we want to export the logo now. To do that, go to File, Export, um, and we want to export it as PNG because that file format allows us to preserve transparency. In other words, it allows us to save it in a transparent with a transparent background. If you save it as JPEG, it doesn't support transparency and it replaces it with a white background. So that's why we're not saving it as a JPEG. So if it's a JPEG like this, you can easily change it by deleting the JPG and type in PNG. Okay, then go ahead and hit export, um, and then hit export once more. And then if you look at the bottom prompt here, it says image exported, and it should be the last location where you save your file. So that takes care of that step. All right, so we're gonna create a new background. And so in order to do that, just do Control N. We're gonna stick with 3000. However, let's go to the advanced option, scroll down to fill with. Let's go and go select foreground color, change it so that it's not that brown color, but something more exciting. So I'm gonna try this color. Yeah, I like that color. It's nice and cool in this hot weather. All right, and then hit OK. Yep. Let's go ahead and Control Shift J. All right, so what did I do? Yep, I did that. So yeah, you don't have to pick this color. You can pick whatever color that appeals to you at the moment. Okay, and make sure it's the foreground color. All right, so we want to open the exported image by going to File and Open Recent, and it should have that PNG file at the top. So go ahead and click on that, and there it is. That's the PNG file. And you notice your project, your XCF file is still open. So let me go ahead and zoom out really quick, show you the difference. So you notice the XCF file have all these layers, but in your exported file, it doesn't, right? It just has one layer, but it does have this transparent background. The reason why we did that is it allows us to, if we ever change our mind about the different elements of our logo, we can go back to our XCF file and then change the different layers. because you can't do that with the export file. Okay. Now we want to go ahead and you notice at the top. So let me go ahead and zoom in. Like I've been switching between our different files here by clicking on this tab menu. So we want to click on this tab, click and drag it to this new background color that you picked out, and then drag it down to the color, right? You may go ahead and zoom out. And let's not worry about this one right here. Let's hit M to go to the move tool and Control Shift J. So by default, GIMP should center your export image. So you don't need to worry about going to Q and then do this, right? You notice it didn't move it because it's already in the center of the image, okay? However, we do want to change the layer name. Right now it's called drop buffer. Let's go ahead and just call it logo, okay? Okay. All right, so make sure it's in the center. We did that. We renamed the layer. And we're going to add drop shadows. And we're going to add two different kinds. And instead of just applying the drop shadow directly to this logo layer, we're going to create two new layers. And we're going to do that by duplicating it twice. And the reason why we do that is so that if we ever change our mind about the shadow, like let's say you're doing this for a client and the client says, I like the shadow to be more obvious, right? So if you apply it direct to the logo, right, you're going to have to re-import it and then retouch it. But with this, you could just, turn off and on the layer or add another layer or, right, duplicate the base layer. Anyways, so for the shadow one, let me go ahead and check that off. We just want to stick with default settings for the shadow effect. So we could do that by going to filters, light and shadow, drop shadow, and then you can just toggle the preview option on and off to see what the default drop shadow looks like. It's kind of subtle, right? So yeah, that takes care of that step. But for shadow 2, click on that. Let's go ahead and hide shadow 1 so we can focus on what shadow 2 looks like. I guess I should have added that direction there. Yeah, you hide it by clicking on the eye icon. And then let's go back to filters, light and shadow, drop shadow. You can unlink it if you want, but I'll keep it linked. And then just click and drag this. I tend to like my shadow this way. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, so now you notice that it's more obvious. You can make it the opacity to be darker. Yeah, a higher level of opacity. And yeah, so this shadow effect is a lot more obvious than this shadow effect. So yeah, so once you pick a shadow effect you like, um, stick with it. So don't have both shadows on, right? You notice it's just dark. I mean, yeah, it's just kind of confusing to have two layer shadows unless you say, oh, that's bokeh. But we're not worried about that. I just want you to pick one shadow effect that you like, stick with it, and then export that. Okay. Um, and then you notice I just quickly clicked the PNG name, and then this time it's just going to add dash shadow. Okay. And then so for your first project, I need to see two files. Um, I need to see PNG, the export of your um, final project with the shadow that you like, the shadow effect you like, and then original XCF file with all the different layers. Okay. So what that looks like is, let me go ahead and show you what that looks like. So you notice I have this PNG project shadow, so that's your final project, and then here I need you to submit this one. So when I open it, sorry, I can see all these different layers. Okay. All right. So um, thank you for watching and good luck on your first project.